Hey, does your mother or your partner make you feel like you're walking on eggshells, or maybe they're lashing out over you, or they are manipulative, or they give you silent treatment? Then maybe you are dealing with a narcissistic or a borderline personality disorder parent, mother, or a partner. In this video, I am going to support you to differentiate between the both narcissistic personality disorder and borderline personality disorder, and how they impact your relationship with them, your emotions, and your behavior. So stay on with me to watch this video after a break. Welcome back. This is Dr. Sumit Grover, and today's topic is your partner or mother, a narcissistic or borderline, and how to cope with it. First, we will start with differentiating between narcissism versus borderline personality disorder. It is a lot of overlapping, of course, because they belong to the same umbrella of personality disorders. So narcissism is involved with lack of empathy and arrogance, grandiosity, control, power, and when they don't get their way, it leads to anger, narcissistic anger. They're insecure from inside, but they are very charming and charismatic. So they seem to be very confident. But one thing which is there that is very much common, that they do feel shame and have a feeling of guilt, specifically in covert narcissism. Borderline personality disorder have overtly empathy. They are on a spectrum of empathy from one end to another end. They can be really sensitive, really be overprotective, overboard to understand your feelings on one hand, and on the other hand, they don't want to understand your feelings. Their feelings come first, and they do sound to be, or they do seem to be, like self-centric. And when it comes to getting their own way, it is little different from narcissistic personality disorder. It is more like a childlike behavior because they act like a newborn or like a child, like a baby. They will whinge and they will whine and they will cry their way out of a tantrum. But with narcissism and a narcissistic personality disorder, it is little different. For them, no empathy at all, but they're very much successful in keeping their mask and their face. So they will use the tactics and the tantrum to get their way on and to get their way out. I have seen and noticed many people with narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder who do get their mask off and face off under the influence of alcohol, because their cognitions don't work the way they have put a mask over them and they're acting out. So the original personality comes out under the influence of alcohol. But still, as far as empathy is concerned, it is a lot of difference between both of them. The commonality between both of them is of seductiveness. If you remember, in my previous videos of treatment of borderline personality disorder, I have mentioned about seductiveness in detail. For borderline personality disorder, seductiveness is like a childlike behavior. Again, they treat humans like an object and like a toy, and they need to have that toy. But for what? But for intimacy, have a romantic relationships, and because they're dysregulation of emotions and they're overruled by emotions, it impacts their behavior, which leads to dysregulation of behavior, and the dramatic behavior starts. In case of narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder, seductiveness is different. It is more trying to be in good books, to be goody-goody, to be nicey-nicey, and they don't want an intimate relationship, but they want control and power over the relationship. They want to fulfill their high need and desire of grandiosity and to be in part of the relationship completely overruled by them. The other difference difference is about anger, narcissistic rage. A very interesting topic. In case of a narcissistic, a rage can be because of the reason, how dare you say that I am not good in that and I am the best and you have to be a follower. Don't you even try to compare yourself with me. And with borderline personality, it's very different. It's about the main catalyst here is that because their expectations are very rosy and they want bed of roses out of the relationship, out of the romantic relationship. And when their expectations are not met, then it's when the love and the hate comes. And then when it's the drama starts, it goes to the point that the dysregulation of thoughts and cognitions is so bad that they will lead to self-harming themselves to show their emotions and either to teach the other person a lesson or to make them feel guilty that they are harming themselves because of them and their behavior. The other one, which is very important point, which is a character of borderline personality disorder, is dysregulation of their self-identity. They keep changing their color of their hair, they'll have tattoos over their body. There's a big question for them, who am I? And that is completely missing. In case of a narcissistic, it's absolutely different. They are very well aware of their self-identity. They can frame it, they can fake it, they can make it, but they will not change it because of the environment or because of the desire of the other person. In case of person with borderline personality disorder, they have to not keep themselves on a pedestal or a stage, but they will withdraw themselves out of fear of abandonment and insecurity and start being a follower, ending their anger. But in case of a narcissistic, if they are not given the pedestal or that stage of performance, they will be showing narcissistic rage again, angry, upset. They will manipulate the situation. They will cause that they are on the top, and if not, they will abandon you beforehand. So abandonment is there in both of them, the fear of abandonment, but the fear of abandonment is in borderline personality disorder and they start being a follower. But with the narcissistic, abandonment leads to, I will leave you much before you will leave me. You are not good enough for me. Dating between a person, one of them narcissistic personality and another one with borderline, it's a very interesting topic. I did touch that topic a little bit in one of my previous videos of lovers and relationship, but I will discuss a little bit in detail here. It is bad, it is volatile, and it's a repeat of a vicious circle. A person with borderline personality disorder will use every tactic and manipulation to keep the person next to them and not to be abandoned. And a person with narcissistic personality disorder does know the insecurity and the fear of abandonment of the other person, and they will start using the words like, you know, that this is your last chance, right? Or, you know, that if this doesn't stop, marriage is out of question. So they are using the fear of abandonment of the person with borderline personality disorder as a fish bait feed. Remember, the narcissistic, they want the feed. They want the feed so they can use the feed as to keep their grandiosity intact and control the behavior. And the narcissistic person gets satisfaction by the fear of abandonment of the person with borderline personality disorder. The other dynamic of the relationship is the blame game. The narcissistic is going to shift the chair of the blame towards the person with borderline personality disorder, and they will say, it is your fault. That's why this is happening, and I am not happy because of you and because of your faults. And the person with borderline personality disorder, because out of fear of abandonment, eventually will give in will take the blame. So there's always an imbalanced relationship of one person blaming all the fingers towards the person with borderline personality disorder, and the other person taking the blame so that they are not abandoned. So this pattern and this vicious circle keeps on going, and in between this blame game, the volatile of the relationship also carries on. Let's talk about a narcissistic mother or a parent and a borderline mother or a parent. One of my patients interestingly mentioned that, Dr. Grover, my friend is going through dual narcissism behavior of a parent. I said, dual narcissism? What does it mean? She said, oh my God, both her parents are narcissistic. So one is gaslighting and the other one is giving silent treatment. So they team up. Oh my God, poor child. So firstly, we will discuss about a borderline personality mother. Highly emotional, unstable, intense mood swings, fear of abandonment, can be unpredictable emotional reactions, sometimes overtly sensitive and sometimes not empathetic. So the child development of this kind of a mother is absolutely emotional confusion. The child does not know how to react emotionally in a certain situation and how to react differently emotionally to a different situation. Mother with narcissistic personality disorder, more emotionally detached, prioritizing control, admiration, and maintaining a superior self-image. Important point out here is relationship with their child or relationship with their children. The person with borderline personality disorder, the mother, she sees the child as a source of emotional validation. She can shift between idealizing the child and devaluing the child. Fear of abandonment may lead to clinginess and also making the child go through the guilt trip that the child is responsible for their emotional reactions and how they are going through emotional pain. Narcissistic personality disorder mother. A very nice movie I saw, Flowers in the Attic. Self-centric, selfish, no empathy. So they view the child as an extension of themselves, expecting perfection, lacks empathy for the child's emotional needs, can be controlling, critical, dismissive, and the child does not meet the expectations, they are done. So the child of this kind of mother develops in a very detached, can be in a flat mode way, and reacting to situations in a very flat way. Reactions to the conflict is a very important point to understand a difference between a borderline personality mother and a narcissistic mother. For the borderline personality mother, extreme reactions, crying, outbursts, threat of self-harm. For a narcissistic mother, cold, manipulative, dismissive, or gives silent treatment. So the development of the child of the borderline personality disorder, they will usually react in a very temper tantrum or a crying behavior because that's the pattern they are learning. And for a narcissistic mother, they think being flat mood or being dismissive is the best idea because that's what they've learned from the mother. The other aspect, important aspect, is apology and accountability. The borderline personality mother may apologize but still will struggle to regulate her emotions. The apology will come in a very reactive way, emotional way, in a very sensitive way sometimes. But for a narcissistic personality mother, no, they rarely apologize and often they blame on the child for the situation or for their relation not being good or for the problems. Now here we have to look into how it impacts on the child. A child with borderline personality disorder mother may grow up feeling responsible for her emotional state. They often experience anxiety, guilt, and confusion because they think that they are responsible for the mother's emotions and the emotional pain. A child of narcissistic personality mother may struggle with self-worth. It's because they may develop into a person like a people pleaser, or feeling they're never good enough because they've never been validated by the mother. So finally, the way it is that if your mother has borderline personality disorder, you may feel like you're walking constantly on eggshells. So protect your emotional energy. If your mother is having narcissistic personality disorder, you may feel invisible and unworthy. Build your own identity. Take charge. Stop being the victim. Don't rely on her validation. Regardless of the diagnosis, in both the cases, your mental health matters, and therapy can support you to unlearn the toxic patterns and to develop self-worth and independent of her approval and validation. Let's talk about 5:5 tips to deal with or coping strategies with both borderline personality disorder mother and a narcissistic mother. The coping strategies for borderline personality disorder mother can be a little different than the narcissistic because of the reasons of the characters and the reasons because of the dysregulation of emotions and thoughts and behavior. The mother with borderline personality disorder may be emotionally intense, unpredictable. Fear of abandonment is so high. So here's how we can cope with that relationship. Number one, validate but don't absorb. Don't sink in. If she's showing a feeling of, because don't forget, she is going to go through the feeling of rejection and abandonment easily. So acknowledge her feelings, but without taking on the burden. Say to her, you are overreacting, but don't say or use the word overreacting. Use the word, I understand this is hard for you. That is why maybe you are overreacting. Have clear boundaries. You are not responsible for managing her emotions. If she has an emotional outburst, you can say, I'll talk to you when we can both be calm. So mindful communication of using the word we can be better than you, because pointing the finger can lead to more of escalation of an outburst. Don't get pulled into the emotional storm. If the swings are between love and hate, leading to anger, recognize the pattern and don't react emotionally. Detach with love. If she's using guilt, emotional manipulation, or self-harm threats, remind yourself that her emotions are hers to manage. Seek professional help. If she expresses suicidal thoughts, don't take things in your hands. Build your own emotional support system. Therapy can support groups, and have some trusted friends in whom you can confide, and help yourself to balance the emotional toll which you have gone through for long. Coping strategies, 5 tips for a narcissistic personality mother. A mother with narcissism may be or will be controlling, dismissive, and will lack empathy. So some of the techniques which you can manage or cope with this relation is, number one, recognize that you cannot change her. She may never acknowledge or take responsibility for her actions. Instead of seeking her approval, focus on validating yourself. Don't expect validation out of her. Number 2, set emotional boundaries. If she is criticizing you, and you can say, I am not discussing this at present. I am not discussing this at present, and disengage. Limit your conversations on topics that trigger the blame or manipulation. Third one, protect your self-esteem. A narcissistic personality disorder mother often will belittle you or compare you with other children and will make themselves feel superior and you inferior. Remind yourself that her opinions are not a reflection of your worth. Number 4, avoid seeking validation from her. A narcissistic mother may only give approval when it is serving her needs, giving or making her or sitting on the stage of performance or fulfilling her grandiosity. Instead, build your own source of confidence. Have a good career, have good friends, go for therapy. Number 5, low contact or no contact if needed. If she is emotionally abusive and unwilling to change, reduce or cut the contact and form your own self-protection, because you yourself are responsible for your mental health, not her. And you are not responsible of their mental health, whether it's borderline personality or whether it is narcissistic personality disorder. Hope you like this video. There are many other videos on my channel about borderline personality and narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder, which can give you a better understanding. Any questions, come back to me. If you liked my video, press the thumb, and if you have not subscribed me, press the bell. Till then, have a good life, have a good relationship, have a good mental health, and I will come back soon.